Now, what I wanted to sort of start with the tactical breakdown of Aston Villa is first sort of paying plaudits to them. They've done extremely well so far. Are they going to get relegated? They're going to be nowhere near. I think they're going to get sort of a similar feat to Martin O'Neill's Aston Villa. I genuinely do. I think they're that good in terms of ability. And I think so far they've sort of shocked the Premier League, like Everton have, in terms of doing extremely well. Now, there are a lot of factors to take into account when looking at Aston Villa. We'll get into that in a little bit. But what I wanted to start with on the tactical breakdown is probably similarities with Leeds and Liverpool. Now, stay with me. It's just going to be in terms of how I think Dean Smith and Aston Villa are going to be approaching this game. Now, with Leeds United, what do we know so far? Well, we know that Struijk is going to be in for Calvin Phillips, another injury for Leeds United, alongside Liam Cooper, the captain of the side, and obviously new summer signing, 20 million, Diego Llorente, who joins on the injury list with Adam Forshaw, who at this moment in time would be absolutely perfect in this Leeds United side. So once again, Leeds absolutely obliterated with injuries, but we bit part. Last time we played Villa at Villa Park, we were absolutely smacked with injuries. Again, it was in the Christmas period. If you remember, Leif Davis went to left back for his first professional full debut, and he did extremely well. So I'm sure bit part Leeds will do a good job. I really do think that. But yeah, I think Liverpool are an extremely good benchmark, and we'll just get onto that now. Now, what we saw against Leicester City at the weekend from Aston Villa was a very solid performance, and extremely solid, very good at the back, gave Leicester nothing really, and that contributes to Villa's outstanding defensive display so far in the Premier League. You just have to admit it. Liverpool was a very different game, however. How they set up, how they transitioned, there was a much higher press on the Liverpool fullbacks, very similar to Leeds against Liverpool. The reason behind that is because Liverpool plays such a high line, and I think there was almost credit due to Leeds United for exposing Liverpool on that first day of the season. Villa took a very similar approach in terms of pressing them high, even going as high as Watkins pressing on Adrian, who eventually made a couple of mistakes in that game. So there are very similar sort of blueprints Villa used to break Liverpool down. This worked into Aston Villa's hands really extremely well. Why? Well, because Liverpool pass out from the goalkeeper. Who do that as well? Leeds United. So obviously you've got ball-playing centre-backs in terms of Robin, in terms of, well, I presume this game it could be Luke Ayling, Van Dijk and Gomez, that game, very, very proficient, probably the best in the world at passing out from the back. But Villa, they took the chances, and what did they do? They pressed Ross Barkley high alongside Ollie Watkins, sort of forming a 4-4-2 in the press, and they exposed Liverpool. And I guess that's the different side that Ross Barkley has brought to Aston Villa. The fact that they can now press high with two very proficient high pressers in Ollie Watkins, who did it similarly at Brentford, and Ross Barkley, who obviously is absolutely class in the Premier League and has done it at the top level. So they've got very proficient players in that press that enables them to deploy a 4-4-2 alongside a 4-3-3. Now, I think the glaring error from Leeds is Leeds' transfer window. I came on here and said how amazing it was, and it was a brilliant window for me. I don't get people who hack it down, really. But what I will say, Leeds were in for an 8. Leeds were in for another midfielder to sort of enhance that Forshaw role, who, is just not getting back at all anytime soon. De Paul and Cuisance, and it was well known that Leeds were in for that number 8. I think the difficulty at this moment in time, the difficulty we saw the other night, is Leeds play one midfielder in front of the other. In terms of, Calvin Phillips will be that DM, then you'll have Rodrigo sort of at the top of the midfield bracket, and then you'll have Click somewhere in the middle. So you bypass one or the other, and you're in a real good state of play. You've transitioned past Leeds' man-marking display, and we're not lateral as a double pivot. You don't have, let's say, a Shackleton and a Calvin Phillips to hold that defensive rear guard. You breach one and you're going to breach the other very, very quickly if you've got a good counter-attacking press and many men coming forward. Bielsa's done it at Marseille. He's deployed the 4-2-3-1 formation. So we've seen it before with Marcelo. It's not one of these sort of different formations that he'll never play. We all talk about the 3-3-1-3 and the 4-1-4-1 with Leeds United, but he does deploy the 4-2-3-1, and we've seen that in his managerial career. So I would love to see something like that. Whether or not that's going to be a bit of an in-game management, if he sees Villa pressing really high and Leeds consistently losing the ball, I think we could make sort of modifications in that aspect. But I think that would be a really good way of going, because lateral defending is where Leeds are also going to get success with 4 going forward. We We saw in the first 20 minutes of the City game, what they did extremely well, Manchester City, was they cut off the supply to Calvin Phillips. Now, Struijk's going to be a target. He's definitely going to be a target for Villa. We sort of noticed in the second half of the Wolverhampton Wanderers game that Ayling was a target for me. Ayling kept losing the ball, but you saw Jimenez sort of drifting over to the left. You saw the left back pressing up and the left midfielder pressing very high on Luke Ayling, because most of our play comes from Luke Ayling. He is the benchmark of Leeds United's footballing transitions from defence to midfield to attack. So is Dallas going to go to right back? Is Luke Ayling going to go to centre back? But what Grealish is going to do, he's going to be pressing high on Stuart Dallas as well. I do think Struijk's going to be, they're going to have the high press with Ross Barkley on Pascal. Now, Pascal's done very well when he's gone into that defensive midfield role, but what Ross Barkley does is they sort of sacrifice his defensive play, really. They use him in that attacking midfield role, and he just sits off the shoulder of the attacking midfield. We saw that against Liverpool. We saw that against Leicester as well, against Mendy. And I think Ross Barkley is sort of being deployed as that shadow striker a lot of the time with Villa. And as I say, they do transition into the 4-4-2 when Barkley and Watkins are on the pitch together. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how Leeds deal with that. The accuracy of our passing has to be absolutely spot on, and we can't put Struijk in danger if he's got men around him. I do think there's going to have to be times in this game where Leeds are just going to have to go long. And we've added that to our play this year. I think we went long a lot against Liverpool. I think we've gone long a lot against Manchester City. What's going to be tested is Struijk's distribution. Is it on par with Calvin Phillips' distribution? Now, I think hopefully what we're going to see with Pascal Struijk is him sort of dropping into that defensive role, really, forming a back three, which we see Calvin Phillips doing consistently. There, we're going to be outnumbering Barkley and Watkins, and we're going to be sort of forcing them to stretch their play. The difficulty is going to be whether or not Grealish pushes high, and then Villa automatically transform into a front three. But if they're going 4-4-2, then if Struijk gets that ball and he's in the sort of middle between Ayling and Koch, he's going to be able to get the ball and hopefully distribute it at the same level as Calvin Phillips does, really. But I think what we've got to watch out for Villa, as I say, it's the inaccuracy of passing, because when they spring on the counter-attack, they're absolutely ruthless when it's come to conversion, chances created, chances scored. They're extremely, extremely good at that this season. And as well, another addition to their play, very different to what they were doing last year, is they shoot all the time. Ross Barkley's had, I think it's 12 shots this year so far. Grealish has had 13. Watkins has had 13 as well. So they are not afraid, as we saw against Liverpool, to get the ball on the edge of the box and just shoot. Now, where I do think Leeds can get elements of success is if Klich sort of drops in to that left back role, which we've seen him do a lot before in terms of just creating space. That will enable Alioski to push up, maybe bypassing Trezeguet, who's obviously going to be pressing Klich on that right hand side, and then that enables Leeds to overload that left hand side, overload Matty Cash with Alioski and Harrison, and that's where chance creation can come from for Leeds. This is where Liverpool got elements of success, a lot of success. Wijnaldum would drop into that sort of left midfield role, sort of the left wing back role, actually, would get the ball, and that would enable the likes of Andy Robertson to push up. That would enable the likes of Jota to push up, and that's where they gained a lot of success, but they didn't do it often enough. And the good thing there is what we saw Jota do is he would sort of come into an inside forward role, which we've seen Jack Harrison do numerous times. Coming into that inside forward role brings out Matty Cash, and then you've got that space for someone like Alioski to expose. But this is where the balls in have to be absolutely perfect for Patrick Bamford. If they're drilled, perfect. If they're in the air, they have to be perfect. They cannot be bypassing the entire forward line, which is what we saw against Wolves. 39 crosses in, and did we see any success from any of them? Now, as I've said so far as well, Villa's counter-attack is extremely good. Some people don't call them a counter-attacking team. I think they are a counter-attacking team. They're defensively strong. We've seen that this season with sort of the consistency of Konsa and Tyrone Mings, and their long balls are the highest in the Premier League. They will just go long, and they're looking for Watkins to compete with the centre-back, but also you have the likes of Grealish, you have the likes of Trezeguet, sort of forming an inside-forward role, always looking for the second balls. Now, this wasn't good enough from Leeds United against Wolverhampton Wanderers. I thought for the entire game, Wolves were getting more success on the second balls. Second balls in the Premier League are absolutely vital, because when you're coming up against top quality teams, the second balls are what teams thrive on. The long ball is sort of the first port of call. The second port of call is going to be whether or not the team can gain an advantage from the second balls. Leeds have to be winning these against Villa. The reason for that is because Villa are so good going forward in terms of the chance conversion rate. As I've said earlier, the likes of Grealish, McGinn, Barkley, Watkins all going forward. Leeds have to be winning their individual battles. And we'll see with Martinez as well. Emi Martinez, the new goalkeeper from Arsenal, what he'll do, instead of playing the ball out to the likes of Mings, the likes of Konsa, similarly to what Leeds do playing out from the back, similarly to what Liverpool and City do playing out from the back, we'll see them hitting the ball to Grealish, hitting the ball to Trezeguet. Trezeguet, who's extremely good in the air, and Grealish, obviously, who's extremely good at using his body. As Leeds United utilised the right, sort of with Luke Ayling and overloads down that side with Helder Costa and Patrick Bamford veering over to that side, Villa utilised the left with Jack Grealish. Obviously, he gets more fouls than anybody in the Premier League. He's averaging this season 5 fouls per match. So we have to be wary of that. The fact that he's then going to be aiding in the utilisation of set pieces that Villa are good with. So overloading that left-hand side is going to be a critical part of Leeds gaining an advantage, defending well against, Stuart Dallas. If he is on the right-hand side, he's done very well internationally against world-class players. We saw Traore come on the other night, didn't do anything. I thought Dallas was absolutely brilliant against him. He struggled against Salah massively this season. So we've seen sort of, a little bit of inconsistencies in terms of Dallas completely nullifying opponents. Someone like Traore we thought would murder Dallas in terms of pace. Dallas did very well. Salah, it was Salah versus Leeds, that game, wasn't it? And I thought he really had the beating on Dallas. So that battle, if Stu does play on the right-hand side, is going to be absolutely pivotal in Leeds' success. What you'll see as well is Watkins veering over to that left-hand side, especially on goal kicks. Matt Targett coming in from left-back and overloading that left-hand side, because Grealish does attract 2 or 3 players, which then seamlessly creates an overload on that left-hand side. But what I will say about Villa is they have been extremely lucky. I've been doing a bit of research, and the first 4 games they've had Sheffield United with a man sent off after 12 minutes, which shouldn't have happened. I'm just getting this in there, guys. But they've had Leicester City with 3, for me, of the best players not playing in Söyüncü, Maddison and Vardy from the start. They've then had Liverpool without Thiago, Henderson, Mane, Alisson, of course. And then they've had Fulham, obviously, who haven't got the best defensive record. And now they've got Leeds without Llorente, Phillips, Cooper, Forshaw. So they've had it quite good of Villa. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not they are going to have this success against a proper, fully strengthened sort of top 10 side. That's going to be really interesting. But I do completely rate how Villa have gone about this season. They do look very, very good. Now, where do Leeds beat Villa? Now, the cross is in. They have to be better. Last time out against Wolves, 39 crosses. And did we get anything from it? Absolutely not. I really like the set piece variation in terms of getting the ball out to Harrison. That was really good, because we're not going to win that battle against Wolves' enormous centre-backs, Kilman and Bolly being 2 of the big ones. It's going to have to be similar against Aston Villa. We saw that against the last time we played them at Ellen Road, when Mings just won absolutely everything. A really old-school centre-half obviously came through sort of with Mick McCarthy. So the man-for-man battles are huge. I felt like there was too many lost against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And we have to utilise Bamford a bit more. A lot of people slating him the other day. A lot of people slating Rodrigo. They had nothing to work with. Had absolutely nothing to work with. And if Villa press high, we have to be better. Against Wolves, why I thought we were inferior to Wolves is the first half. They were superior because they sat deep and we played into their game and we couldn't break them down. That's what Wolves do. They sit deep. They hit teams on the counter-attack. But they deployed the high press in the second half and we couldn't get a pass going. we couldn't establish our patterns of play. We couldn't establish the overloads until Pablo Hernandez came on. Wolves were dominant, and then they hit us on the counter-attack. So in both halves, for me, playing into their game, they were superior. But the positives, Struijk always does excellently for Leeds, and I think he'll do well in that defensive midfield role. The interesting part's going to be the transitions. How quickly can Leeds distribute the ball to the wings? We don't know whether or not Struijk's distributions is as good as Calvin Phillips. Meslier is getting better and better. Koch looks amazing. And Pablo was very good when he came on. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. That has been your tactical breakdown. There is a lot of research that goes into these videos. So if you are a new fan of the channel, if you are a Villa fan, if you are a Leeds fan, please slap a subscribe on the channel. Also slap a like on the video. And if you want some bonus content, hit the content links out in the Patreon. We've got merch available. And obviously one-off donations are there on the PayPal as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in a bit.